My boyfriend, M40, moved in 2 weeks ago, and I'm already noticing red flags. How do I, F32, address this without getting into a lengthy argument? My boyfriend, together 1.5 years, has been very adamant that we move in together, and we've now been living together for 2 weeks. But I'm noticing a few things that are bothering me, and I'm not sure how to handle them. The other day, I noticed that he doesn't wash his hands after the bathroom. I'd noticed it a couple of times before, but usually let it slide to avoid conflict. I was debating whether I should bring it up or not, but since we now share a household, my apartment, with my things in it, I felt it was important to remind him now that we're living together and sharing a household. He sighed, washed his hands quickly, and then started an argument, saying that he doesn't wipe, so washing hands isn't necessary. I told him that's not very hygienic, and we went back and forth for a while. Later, he said he didn't like to be lectured, and that I should have been nicer about it. I disagreed, because I felt I had asked neutrally, but I let it go to avoid more arguing. Then yesterday, while cooking, I noticed he had completely ruined one of my nicer wooden cutting boards. He had used a bread knife to cut vegetables, leaving the surface rugged. I politely asked him to be a bit more careful with my things when using them. Instead of apologizing, he tried to brush it off as not being important. It's just a F\ing cardboard, his words, calling me overreacting and saying I should pick my fights more wisely. I stayed calm and tried to shift focus to avoid a fight, but I still had a feeling of this not being fair because my request was reasonable. It feels like he's very sensitive to anything that comes across as criticism, but for me it's not about criticizing him, it's about showing respect by listening to what I'm saying. There have been a few other similar incidents, and I'm starting to question this living arrangement. I know the things we are arguing about seem trivial, but I feel like he is lacking respect for my belongings because he doesn't really care. He is not really careful with his own things either. He's renting out his apartment for 3 more months, so even if things don't improve, we're kind of stuck together. How do I bring this up constructively without it always turning into an argument? TLR. After moving into my apartment, my boyfriend dismisses my concerns about hygiene and damaging my belongings and turns it into an argument. I feel unheard and disrespected. How do I communicate this constructively? You aren't stuck together. He can make other arrangements. This is why I don't play house with my GF. After divorcing over 30 years ago, I decided never again. He doesn't wipe? Sorry, that alone is a hard pass. The hell is that? I mean, everything else isn't great, but the hygiene stuff is just gross. Boyfriend's hygiene issues are becoming a major problem for me. So I've been dating this guy for about 14 months now, and there's this ongoing issue that's really starting to get to me. Basically, his personal hygiene is pretty questionable, and it's affecting our relationship in a big way. From early on I noticed he had this persistent body odor thing going on, even right after he claimed to have showered. At first I didn't want to make things awkward, so I waited a few months before saying anything. When I finally brought it up, I asked if he was using a washcloth or anything to actually scrub when he showers. Turns out he wasn't, and insisted that most people don't either. I suggested he give it a try anyway. Fast forward to recently, and I had to have another conversation because the smell was just becoming unbearable during intimate moments. When I mentioned the washcloth thing again, he said he tried it, but it bothered his skin, so he won't use one. I offered up using a loofah as an alternative, but he shot that down too. He got really defensive, and ended up leaving my place upset. Then there's his hair situation. Whenever I run my hands through it, my fingers come away feeling greasy, and it never smells clean, just kind of oily and unwashed. So I asked what kind of shampoo he uses, and he told me he doesn't use any at all. Apparently he saw some TikToks about people who don't wash their hair and how it supposedly makes it less oily over time, so he thinks water alone is fine. I'm really struggling here because these seem like pretty basic hygiene things to me. I've tried being gentle and understanding, but nothing's changing. Part of me wants to have one more serious conversation about it, but I'm worried it'll just cause another fight. This is starting to become a deal breaker for me, but I don't know what other options I have. Too long did not read. Boyfriend has poor hygiene habits and refuses to change despite multiple conversations. It is wild somebody even ask if they should continue to date someone with poor hygiene. It is like asking if it is okay to kiss a toilet. It is even more wild that it is such a routine question on this sub. Maybe there is a mental health concern. Poor hygiene can happen with a few mental disorders. I don't think soap is the issue. I don't think he's taking showers much at all. Even if you are just rinsing yourself off with water in a shower, it would be better than his situation. Boyfriend, 35M, suggested I, 29F, move to his town but live alone instead of together. For context, my boyfriend backslash, 35M backslash, and I backslash, 29F backslash, have been dating for about a year and a half. My lease is ending soon, so I need to find a new place to live. We currently live in different towns about 30 minutes apart. His area is nicer, rent is cheaper, and I actually like it a lot. Our relationship is generally very good. We travel together, rotate weekends between my place and his place, and we rarely have conflict. At one point in the past, we both said we could see ourselves living together eventually, so I assumed that might naturally come up now that my lease is ending. Recently, when we talked about my move, he asked why I don't just look for an apartment in his area. I told him I wouldn't want to move to his town unless we were living together, because it would feel weird to relocate there just to live alone. He doesn't think it's weird at all. He thinks it's practical, especially since the commute to my job would only be about 30 minutes. I completely understand that he still has a year left on his own lease, and that he may not be ready to live together yet, is sick of moving from place to place like renters do, or might just enjoy living alone, and I respect that. What's annoying me is him suggesting I move to his town, but not actually move in together, just for practical reasons rather than because he actually wants us to meet closer or to take that step as a couple afterwards maybe. It almost feels a little insulting, even though I know he probably means well, but I don't know any people that have moved to their partner's area just to have their own place. He also said I could stay with him for a few weeks if I don't find a place in time, but he lives in a studio that's ideal for one person, which made me feel even more annoyed. I'm trying to figure out if I'm overreacting here. I know the stress of moving is probably making me overthink things, and we agreed we'll talk again once we've both had some time to think, so I know there's a longer conversation that needs to happen. How would you feel in this situation? Too long did not read. My lease is ending, and my boyfriend suggested I move to his town but get my own place instead of living together. It feels weird to me, but he thinks it's just practical. Edit. Leases where we live aren't set in stone. Both parties are free to break them without penalties if they announce it a month in advance. I was supposed to be in this apt for another year, but they are selling the building and told us all to vacate in a month. If the town is nicer, cheaper, and the commute is fine, it might actually just be a good move regardless of the relationship. Then if you two decide to live together later, you're already nearby. If he has a year remaining on his lease, and he lives in a studio apartment, what exactly were you expecting to happen at this point in time? Info, when would he see you moving in together? My 27F boyfriend, 30M, told me he'll act horrible until I leave after I brought up his emotional affair. I'm trying to understand if I'm crazy here or if this situation is just as toxic as it feels. This morning I literally woke up, and the first thing my boyfriend said to me was that I'm becoming a slob again. That immediately upset me because it felt really unnecessary and harsh first thing in the morning. For context, about 6 months ago, he was messaging and flirting with one of his employees behind my back. It felt like an emotional affair to me, and it completely damaged my trust in him. We actually broke up for 2 months after that, and then ended up getting back together. So this morning after he said that to me, it triggered a lot of those feelings again. I started thinking about what happened with that girl, and I asked him if he had ever met up with her while we were broken up. He said no. I told him honestly that sometimes I feel like messaging her boyfriend and telling him what happened, because it still bothers me, and I never really got closure from that situation. He immediately got really angry and said he doesn't want drama. Then things escalated badly. He said he wants to break up, and that I need to be out by Saturday. He also said he's going to be really rude to me, ignore me for a few days to teach me a lesson. After that he started insulting me and saying really horrible things, calling me fat, disgusting, saying I'm shaped like a square, that I have an ugly soul, that I have no career or prospects, and that I'll repeat my mom's life. He also called me a sicko. I know bringing up the situation with the employee probably triggered him, but the level of cruelty in his response shocked me. At this point, I don't even know what to think. Is this just a toxic relationship that's reached its end? Or am I somehow provoking this by bringing up the past? I'm feeling pretty shaken by how quickly it escalated and the things he said. Any outside perspective would be appreciated. We have been together for 10 years, hence why I'm finding it hard to leave, and I almost believe him when he said I'll be alone forever. Too long did not read. My boyfriend had an emotional affair with one of his employees 6 months ago, which broke my trust. This morning after he called me a slob, I brought up the situation again and asked if he ever met up with her while we were broken up. When I said I sometimes feel like telling her boyfriend what happened, he exploded, said he wants to break up, told me to leave by Saturday, and started insulting me, calling me fat, disgusting, saying I have an ugly soul and no future. He even said he'll act horrible on purpose until I leave. I'm trying to figure out if this relationship has just become completely toxic. He's emotional abusive and cheating is also part of that. When people get caught doing bad things, they frequently lash out to divert attention off themselves, which is why he's being cruel. Run away. You deserve much better. He is more toxic than Britney Spears in 2003. He's treating you like total garbage. Leave him, he's for the streets.